So have you ever read the Bible and felt like you're only getting like half the story of what was really, really going on in the world at that time? Well, that's where a resource like this can really come in handy. This is a Holman Bible Atlas, and we're going to get into why this is a great resource for cultural and political context of the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament. Okay, so here is the book that I'm reviewing, the Holman Bible Atlas. This was the one that I reviewed in the last one, considerably smaller, and about the same thickness. And it is in color, but the pages aren't glossy. Where this one really shines is in the charts, and this one really shines in the maps, although it does have some good charts, and so we're going to get into it. So it's nice and bright and shiny. This is what the spine looks like, and this is the back, and this is hardcover. This is sewn. You can see, let me show you. I don't know if you can see that right there. It's sewn. You can see the stitches. So this is what it looks like when it opens up. It's a very beautiful book, high glossy cover pages. Hopefully it doesn't shine too much in the light. So this is the table of contents, and I'm going to go through it quite a bit, just so you can really get a sense of what's in here. So it starts out with an introduction, and then each chapter kind of covers each section. There's different sections, and then within each section is a chapter. So the first section, or part one, is the biblical setting. And then it goes through it has 3 different chapters. And so the first chapter is the face of the ancient Near East, natural regions of Palestine, and life in ancient Palestine. And then part 2 is the Old Testament period. So this is pre-Old Testament, just kind of like laying down the groundwork for the region itself. And then it gets into Old Testament period. And chapter 4, so it continues on with the chapter numbers. Chapter 4 is before Abraham, and then the world of the patriarchs, Middle Bronze Age in Mesopotamia and Egypt. This isn't just about the Bible. This is about like the whole entire region, everything that was going on at the time in the region. The Egyptian experience, the Exodus, the conquest and settlement. The king of David and Solomon, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah, Judah alone amid international powers, and this is like the Assyrian threat and Hezekiah's independence and Hezekiah's reforms, and then the exile, and then the Persian period. I've studied out quite a bit in the Persian period because I'm studying Esther right now in my Bible study group. And so I've been studying this out. The Hellenistic period, that's the Greek period afterwards, because then the Greeks end up taking over the Persians. And then part 3 is a New Testament era, and so the world of Jesus in the early church. And so you have Rome. It goes into this whole entire thing of Rome's emergence as a world power, the Romans, the Palestinians, and Herod the Great, the world of Jesus, the life and ministry of Jesus, early expansion of the church, and so this is going to be all the missionary work. The first Jewish revolt, again, like I said, this has things in it that the Bible doesn't have in it, but it helps you to understand things. And then the last chapter is the Christian church from AD 70, after the destruction of the temple, to AD 300. Then there's a glossary and some indexes. And so I've got a few things here that I want to show. Oh, there's more here. There's a list of sidebars, and I'll show you some of the sidebars. So, you have the Garden of Eden, Table of Nations, you have a whole bunch of them. Prophets of the Exile, Nehemiah's Jerusalem. So I'm not going to show you everything, but those are the sidebars. I'll show you sidebars. Then they have a list of charts, and then they have all of these maps, very extensive maps. And then there's a little bit of a preface. There's some abbreviations here that I've actually never really looked at. Here's a preface. And then you get into part 1, the biblical setting. Now, let me show you kind of what a page spread looks at. When I first got into this, I was looking for page numbers, and I couldn't for the life of me find the page numbers because I was looking for them in the normal places, which would be down the bottom, or whatever, up in the corner. No, the page numbers are up here in these little compass circles. And so once you get to know that, then it's fine and it's easy. But it's a very beautiful book with, nice pretty text, these letter insets here. Very nice detailed maps. I'll show you a lot of them. One of the cool things that they do in this is when they're showing you a big map like this, they'll give you a globe, right, with a square around it showing on the globe where this map is actually on our globe, like as we recognize the continents. So it acclimates us to where we are in the continental regions. And obviously they're all going to be in this area, but it's kind of nice to see that. Big, beautiful, and like I said, this is the face of the ancient Near East. And so they're just really kind of just like going over like the whole landscape before the story of the Bible starts. Again, they're, showing the globe. They do have pictures throughout. This is a picture of the Euphrates River. They have pictures of archaeological digs. They do have some diagrams in addition to the maps, lots of charts. I'm going to go over that. One of the things they do that I really like is you have this big map here, and then it's got this red box. What that red box means is that they're going to zoom into that region right there, and they do that with this inset right here. So this right here is a close-up of this area right here. So you can see that Sinai, the wilderness of Sinai. So that's where we're at right here. And so this is a close-up of this. So whenever you see a big map with a red square, you know that there's going to be a close-up. And then there's always going to be, like any good map, there's going to be kind of a legend for you to be able to look at. So you can see there's some actual modern pictures. This is the Nile Valley, Nile River, talking about all of that. This is a really nice spread here. Again, it's got that red box right there, meaning they're going to highlight that, and they highlight it right here. So that's kind of, you kind of get the sense of like just how detailed some of these maps are. And they show the topography, which is really neat. I really like seeing the topography of the mountains and whatnot, because a lot of times maps, they're real flat looking and you don't get a real sense of like where the mountains are at and this and that. So I like the detail of the maps. So they're going to show you from time to time archaeological digs. And this is, again, some really interesting topography maps that they're showing you. And now what I want to do is I just kind of want to show you just a series of like different things. I just have them marked here. This is the Old Testament period before Abraham. This is really interesting. This is the Neolithic Tower at Jericho, uncovered by excavations. Anyway, this right here is called, what these are, let me go back to the very beginning here. These are the list of sidebars. These are sidebars. So all your sidebars are going to look like this, and it's like this ancient paper. The one complaint I kind of have about this is that this ancient paper is pretty dark, and the print is kind of a little difficult to read on it. There's not enough of a contrast to be able to read it comfortably, so I just feel like they should have lightened it up just a little bit. So coming to this one, this page right here. Why can't I get there? So this has a little bit of everything on it. Just a nice spread. You have, one of these sidebars, Table of Nations, and then you have a map actually showing the Table of Nations. It says here, the table, Genesis 10 presents a list of nations descended from the three sons of Noah, Japheth, Ham, and Shem. And that's what this is. This is Japheth, and this is Ham, and this is Shem. And then these are charts, and so your charts are going to look like this. This is the rise of early civilizations in Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Palestine. So everything that's going on in the region. And then they're going to have, archaeological finds that they find sometimes. This says it's a Sumerian craftsmanship recovered from the royal burials at Ur. The ram is made from wood, gold, silver, lapis lazuli, and seashells. And so they're going to show you that stuff throughout. Let's come to our next thing that I want to show you. There's some really cool actual photographs of actual landscape and digs here. You see that all throughout. And then occasionally you're going to have some diagrams such as this. This is a reconstruction of David's Jerusalem. Going to the next page. This is a huge two-page spread. And these are, and also, I didn't think I told you this. Up in the left here, you're always just going to have the name of this book, which is the Holman Bible Atlas. Over on the right-hand side, on the right side of the spread, you're going to have what chapter you're in or what section you're in. So we're in the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. Of course, you have your page numbers up here. But then across the top here, you're going to have the time frame in which they're talking about right now. And then you're going to have particular leaders or kings or whatever it is that they're talking about. And so this huge spread right here, it's a little confusing. I was looking at it. I'm like, this is odd. But this chart right here is a period at a glance. It's the divided monarchy between Judah and Israel. And so you have Judah, kind of like the main things that go on here with Judah and Israel, their prophets. But you also have some of the leaders of Aram, Damascus, and Assyria, and what's going on with our leaders in Judah and Israel. So it's not just about like harmonizing and seeing the Judah-Israel divided kingdom at a glance. It's also how it was affected by all the other powers in the region. This one over here, this chart over here is different because it says Bright and Miller Hayes here. These are different scholars that came up with different time periods, different actual dates for the kings of Judah and then the kings of Israel. And so it says, dates preferred by John Bright or dates preferred by Maxwell Miller. So if you're real into that type of stuff, this attempts to like harmonize it a little bit, maybe not harmonize it, but just kind of show you where the differences are. Like if you're researching it and you're coming up with different dates, like what's going on, why am I coming up with different dates? This is probably why. So I just wanted to show you, that. Coming to the next page here. This is the Persian period. I just marked this because I'm kind of studying this out right now because I'm studying Esther. And it's Ezra, actually kind of like the last part of Daniel, Ezra, and Esther, which is in the middle of Ezra, and then Nehemiah, that whole time frame, that's like the Persian period, because then the Persians overthrow Babylon. And so there's, you got a nice chapter here of some of what's going on with that. And then you have a nice chart here of the kings of Persia, and they're going to do this like throughout. Like they have a huge chart for like the Egyptians and the Romans and all of that. And so they have the Persian king, the date, the biblical connection, and events and accomplishments. And so, I'm dealing right here with King Xerxes, which was the king at the Book of Esther. It says possibly, but I would say like probably most definitely. And then it shows, this is the Cyrus cylinder where they actually have like some of Cyrus's announcements like on these cylinders that they found because they have found a whole lot. This is a Persian king of Darius, and Darius the first, who was actually Xerxes' father. And this was Persepolis, one of the Persian royal retreats. And then this was the entire Persian empire that I would say that Xerxes inherited. This was everything that he inherited. Anyway, I just thought that I would show it because I've been kind of like in here right now. And then, Nehemiah's Jerusalem. Again, you have this sidebar here, and it's just kind of difficult to read. And then, they have these beautiful archaeological finds that they found. These are Median soldiers in the service of the Royal Persian Guard, as shown on a relief made on glazed bricks found at Susa, one of the Persian administrative centers. And Susa, this Persian administrative centers, like this is where the Book of Esther would have taken place. So this is like probably something that she would have seen. So anyway, moving on to what do I have next? The New Testament era. And so, I just wanted to take you into the New Testament era at this point in the early church. This diagram here. and to actually show you that there is a chapter. That's right, I marked it to show you the chapter of the world of Jesus. And so it's going to say the world of Jesus, and it's going to say from BC 10 to AD 40, and it's going to show the leaders, Herod, Augustus, Tiberius, Jesus, Agrippa. You're going to have all these charts and just a lot going on with the world of Jesus. And I will just take you through some of these. That's the Roman theater. The springs at Caesarea Philippi. It says, note the sacred cave of Pan and the niches in the cliff walls in the background. So that would have been like back here. Interesting. And so, yeah, just a lot of like really amazing things. This is one of the several caves in the Qumran area which the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. So as you can see, there's a lot, even though it's like huge maps and whatnot, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of history going on too, just a lot. So this is a really amazing resource to get into. The next thing that I have here is the Christian church from AD 70 to 300. This is a beautiful excavation that they have going on here. Wow. It says the Flavian Amphitheater in Rome, more popularly known as the Colosseum. Anyway, I also studied out quite a bit of this because I was doing a study on the 7 churches of Revelation, and so it's got a write-up on each one of those 7 churches. It's got a map of the 7 churches, and kind of shows like the routes and whatnot. And so then it just gets into each one of the 7 churches of Revelation, and so really good information on a lot of these. So then it gets into, you do have several pages of bibliography up here, which is like, this is a very well attested scholarly book. And then you have an index, which is very, very in-depth. If anybody has mentioned, it's in here. That is the Holman Bible Atlas. And hopefully this has given you an idea of what this book is like and how you can maybe see it fitting in your library of fantastic maps and really learning the history of what was really, really going on. I feel like this and the Cultural Background Study Bible is between those two, you just get a really, really good sense of what's going on. But this is something that I prefer a lot when it comes to history, and it's really been helping me out a lot in my studies. So thanks for watching, and if you haven't seen that other review of the Nelsons, if you want to kind of compare the two, this is obviously a much more beautiful book. They serve different purposes. This is much more cultural background and political background, and the Nelsons is much more of a book by book outline with charts and things of that nature. So 2 completely different study aids. This one I'm really, really enjoying right now. So thanks for watching. Bye.